Here are the top stories for today, December 1st, 2021. No halt to recovery. Malacanang remains confident that the country will hit its economic growth target for 2021, even as it scrambles to ramp up protection amid the threat of the Omicron variant. Kamsamnida, South Korea. The Philippines gets over 500,000 doses of Astrazeneca vaccines donated by Seoul, which is expected to boost the country's vaccination drive. Hitting the brakes on pandemic traffic, the number coding scheme in Metro Manila resumes today in a bid to curb congestion along roads during the holiday season. And honesty is the best policy. 2 employees are honored for not giving in to temptation and returning valuables to their rightful owners. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. More positive outlook as the government sees growth in the country's economy before the year ends. Despite the looming threat of the Omicron variant, Malacanang said it is confident that the Philippines could still achieve its target of 4% to 5% economic growth by the end of the year. Cabinet Secretary and Acting Presidential Spokesperson Carlo Nograles said the country can meet its economic growth target of 4 to 5% with a continued decline in COVID-19 cases and with a safe reopening of the economy.
Confident, no? To now, we are confident na mararating natin yung ating economic growth targets. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, no? Kung patuloy itong pagbaba ng kaso, patuloy rin po yung pagbaba rin ng mga ADAR, ang 2-week growth rate, ang pati patuloy pa rin po yung safe reopening natin ng ating ekonomiya, then we're very confident that we will reach our growth targets. Kaya nga po, panawagan natin sa lahat, kailangan magpakuna po tayo, mas maraming taong mapakunahan natin, then mas maging kampante po ang lahat.
Nograles, meanwhile, defended the decision of the IATF to retain the Alert Level 2 status in Metro Manila and most areas in the country. He said the IATF EID is finalizing the parameters to possibly de-escalate Metro Manila to the lowest Alert Level 1.
Sa NCR naman, bakit siya nanatili sa Alert Level 2? Dahil pumasa naman po siya sa lahat ng mga parameters para sa Alert Level 2. Ang tinitingnan natin dyan ay siyempre yung average daily attack rate ng lugar. Tinitingnan din po natin dyan yung 2-week growth rate and of course yung healthcare utilization. Dyan pa rin po yung ating yung mga guidelines natin, no, for Alert Level 2. So susundin lang po natin itong mga guidelines na ito and then of course yung active monitoring po natin ng mga variants of concern. At tinitingnan din po natin ngayon, siyempre kung ano yung mga number of new COVID cases sa bawat lugar. Kung may clustering ba ng mga cases at lahat naman ng mga LGUs, mga local chief executives, lalo na mga mayor, mga governors, dapat nakahanda po sila mag-granular at localized lockdown kung kinakailangan.
Another round of the Bayanihan Bakunahan program is slated on December 15 to 17. In an interview, Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles and Acting Presidential Spokesperson said the IATF has yet to finalize the proposal but is considering it amid the looming threat of the Omicron variant of COVID-19. He said the second round of national vaccination days would be up to the IATF and National Vaccines Operations Center. He also said that Malacanang is open to the possibility of conducting daily COVID-19 vaccinations in the local level, but it would depend on the availability of vaccine supplies in the local government units. He also said that local officials are in the best position to determine whether or not walk-in vaccinations could be accommodated. Meanwhile, the DOH National COVID-19 Vaccination Dashboard shows that the nationwide vaccination campaign has so far yielded over 5,353,000 vaccinated individuals. Region 1 has so far achieved the highest vaccination rate at 211% of its target population. The lowest is the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region with only 20.82% vaccination rate. A law mandating the eligible population to get vaccinated against COVID-19 will no longer push through if more people will voluntarily line up to avail the jabs. In a palace briefing, Cabinet Secretary and Acting Presidential Spokesperson Carlo Nograles said the palace is encouraged by the support displayed by the public during the first day of the Bayanihan Bakunahan vaccine rollout.
We still continue to discuss that inside the IATF. And basta nakikita naman po natin na tuloy-tuloy itong massive vaccination, we're seeing 1 million vaccinees per day, and then ngayon dahil sa 3-day massive vaccination rollout natin, itong Bayanihan Bakunahan, yung target po natin ay 3 million per day, then hopefully there might not be a need for that. Kung realistically on the ground, marami naman po ang nagpabakuna. But then again, we also have to consider na meron itong bagong variant of concern, yung Omicron. So at the end of the day, ang pagbabalance po natin dyan is yung, gaya ng sinabi ni Pangulo, yung police power of the state plus yung public health and safety ng lahat ng ating mga kababayan. So we continue to weigh the options right now sa IATF.
Meanwhile, Interior Secretary Eduardo Año said the local government units have the authority to impose mandatory inoculation against COVID-19 and eliminate hesitancy and brand preference. He said local chief executives have autonomous power based on Section 16 of the Local Government Code.
I would really suggest, sir, that let us be very hard or strict on pressuring people to take the vaccination. We have already LGUs who are announcing, declaring mandatory, and actually we are encouraging them. Number one is Mayor Chavit Singson. Nag-announce na po siya na sa bayan niya, hindi na welcome ang unvaccinated. At yung mga unvaccinated, hindi pwedeng pumunta ng bayan at diyan lang sa bahay. Well, unless kung meron siyang RT-PCR na negative. So, well, we cannot really impose mandatory because we don't have laws, national law. But at least, sir, through the Section 16 of the Local Government Code, a local chief executive can issue executive order or ordinances that will protect its constituents.
In La Union, more local government units in the province are vying to get the 1 million pesos worth of projects, programs, or activities. The criteria just hit the 80% and above vaccination rate until December 8. Governor Francisco Emmanuel Ortega III said they thought of ways to ramp up the inoculation drive, especially now that they have ample supply of COVID-19 vaccines. Apart from the 1 million peso prize, the winning LGU will also receive 50,000 pesos worth of personal protective equipment. 60 vaccinated residents will also receive family food packs worth 5,000 pesos each. The United Nations is finding ways on how to further ramp up the COVID-19 vaccination drive in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. UN Philippines Resident Coordinator Gustavo Gonzalez, who was in Cotabato City to witness the Bayanihan Bakunahan campaign, said there is a need to scale up vaccination efforts in the region. He said BARMM remains disproportionately impacted by the pandemic in terms of its socio-economic development. The government is scheduling a second round of the nationwide COVID-19 vaccination drive, which includes BARMM in a bid to inoculate 54 million Filipinos by year-end. UN Philippines has provided BARMM with the necessary medical equipment, which include the setting up of a COVID-19 testing lab in Basilan, Sulu, and Tawi-Tawi. It also donated the 5 cold chain vehicles for each province, 2 sea ambulances, and 18 solar vaccine refrigerators. It also provides support to address vaccine hesitancy and COVID-19 induced mental health issues among vulnerable communities in the region. Malacanang wants wearing face shields on top of face masks to be voluntary, at the same time required in select areas. President Rodrigo Duterte on Monday said he recognized face shields would provide an additional layer of protection against COVID-19 and new variants such as the Omicron. Duterte said he would leave it to the interagency task force to decide on reimposing the face shield policy. Currently, face shields are voluntary in areas under alert levels 1 to 3. In areas under alert level 4, the policy is left to the discretion of local government units and private establishments. The mandatory face shield policy remains in areas under alert level 5 and in areas with close, crowded, and close contact, such as hospitals and other medical facilities. On Tuesday, the World Health Organization said the use of face shields is not mandatory despite the threat posed by the Omicron variant. WHO Country Representative Dr. Rabindra Abiyasinghe said it is still premature to reintroduce the face shield with a significant public discontent on its mandatory use. Abiyasinghe instead emphasized the need to follow minimal health measures such as physical distancing, face masking, and hand hygiene. Meanwhile, Deputy Speaker Bernadette Herrera proposed that the government should implement strict border control measures instead of reimposing the face shield policy. She said the key actions that would directly address the Omicron threat are strict border controls and the inclusion of airports, hotels, and tourist transport vehicles as high-risk closed spaces. She stressed that there is no strong scientific evidence proving that face shields offer significant protection from COVID-19. The donated Astrazeneca vaccines from South Korea is timely and significant as it coincides with a massive 3-day vaccination campaign. National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. welcomed the arrival of the 539,430 doses of Astrazeneca donated by South Korea at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport on Tuesday night. He said the donation will contribute to the existing friendship and cooperation between the two countries. Galvez said that aside from the vaccines, the Korean government has also donated test kits and face masks during the onset of the pandemic. South Korean Ambassador to the Philippines Kim In-chul said South Korea has provided a total of $200 million as support to the Philippines' COVID-19 programs from 2020 until 2021. He said it would also provide an additional $100 million next year to augment the said funds. Moreover, he said they are also working with Secretary Galvez to bring about 34 to 35 cold trucks so that the remote areas will have better access to the vaccines. Still to come, heading home, you might want to avoid the afternoon rush hour as the number coding scheme in Metro Manila takes effect again today. And the PNP is now accepting applications for exemption from the gun ban for next year's elections. Details ahead. Keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Mga kabida, hindi pa rin nawawala ang banta ng COVID-19. Upang mapasiguro ang kaligtasan ninyo at ang inyong mga pamilya, hanapin ang safety seal sticker sa inyong mga pupuntahan. Mapa mall, man ito, kainan, pasyalan, o kahit anumang business establishment. Ang safety seal ay tanda ng isang establishment na sumusunod sa minimum public health standards ng gobyerno upang maiwasan ang pagkalat ng COVID-19. Ating tandaan, bida ang may disiplina. #Safety Seal para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bansa. Muli, ito po ang inyong lingkod, bumabati sa inyong lahat. Magkaisa tayo. Manila, God first.
Mga kabida, COVID-19 may be here for a while as we continue to aim for population protection through vaccination. So to keep you and your family safe, look for the Safety Seal sticker whenever you go to malls, eat out in restaurants, or visit any private or public establishments. This Safety Seal certification signifies that an establishment is compliant with health and safety protocols set by the government to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Kaya, you're guaranteed of health and safety consciousness of the places you go to. Remember, bida ang may tatak. check if there is a safety seal along the entrance area of the place you're visiting para ligtas ang pamilya, ligtas ang bayan.
Heads up to the motorists who are going out and may have missed the news. The modified number coding in Metro Manila is being implemented again starting today, December 1. Metropolitan Manila Development Authority Chair Ben-Hur Abalos said the Metro Manila mayor signed a resolution to re-implement the scheme following an increase in vehicular traffic. The scheme covers private vehicles and will be implemented during rush hours from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Exempted from the number coding scheme are public utility vehicles, including tricycles, Transport Network Vehicle Service or TNVS, motorcycles, garbage and fuel trucks, and vehicles carrying essential and perishable goods. The number coding scheme was suspended at the onset of the pandemic last year. The Philippine National Police is now accepting applications for those who want to be exempted from the gun ban for next year's elections. PNP Chief General Leonardo Carlos said they will grant an exemption if the need to be equipped with firearms and security detail is found to be urgent and necessary. The application period for the gun ban exemption will run until May 25, 2022. The filing of application may be done online through the Commission on Elections official website. COMELEC Resolution 10728 prohibits carrying, bearing, or transporting of firearms or other deadly weapons, as well as the hiring of bodyguards during the election period from January 9, 2022 to June 8, 2022. Only the police, military, Coast Guard, as well as members of law enforcement agencies may use firearms while fulfilling their official duties. The COMELEC prohibits candidates or any public officers from employing bodyguards and private security forces. Thousands flocked to vaccination centers on the first day of the national vaccination drive last November 29 as the government intensified calls for everyone all over the country to vaccinate against COVID-19. More on this from Marita Mawahe.
Over 27,000 doses of the COVID-19 vaccines were administered by the City Government of Manila at the opening of the 3-day Bayanihan Bakunahan National Vaccination Campaign against COVID-19 on Monday. The capital city has already breached its goal of at least 1 million to achieve population protection. About 2.8 million shots have been administered since March, with 1.35 million individuals already fully vaccinated. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno said the city is on track in vaccinating as many as possible as requested by President Rodrigo Duterte. In Zamboanga City, almost 34,000 residents got vaccinated against COVID-19 on the first day of the nationwide vaccination drive on Monday, although the figure is still a little short of the city's daily target. This prompted Mayor Maria Isabel Climaco Salazar to reiterate her call for residents to unite in the battle against COVID-19 and get themselves vaccinated. Zamboanga City fell short of its target to vaccinate 38,992 individuals daily in the ongoing 3-day national vaccination days. A total of 52 vaccination centers here were opened during the first day of the mass immunization drive, slated to culminate on Wednesday. Meanwhile, over 163,000 Bicolanos were inoculated on Monday at the start of the 3-day Bayanihan Bakunahan National Vaccination Campaign. The Department of Health said the region ranks 5th nationwide in terms of the number of individuals administered vaccines. The agency also encouraged the remaining unvaccinated individuals to submit themselves for inoculation as the Bayanihan Bakunahan continues. In Pangasinan, some 87,474 residents have been inoculated against COVID-19 on the first day of the 3-day national vaccination drive. The provincial government of Pangasinan conducted mass vaccinations at Barangay Tawin-Tawin in Alaminos City, Barangay Sawat in Orbistondo, Narciso Ramos Sports and Civic Center in Lingayen, and Robinson's Place in Calasiao on Monday. It was open to walk-in clients aged 12 years old and above, including the elderly and those with comorbidities. The Region 1 Medical Center in Dagupan City, a DOH-run hospital, is conducting its immunization program in 3 other areas such as in Lingayen Town, San Carlos City, and Lyceum Northwestern University. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Muaje.
The Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, or POEA, plans to come up with new guidelines for the deployment of new household service workers to Saudi Arabia by early next year. The POEA temporarily suspended deployment of newly hired HSWs to Saudi Arabia in the wake of the abuses committed by a retired general against Filipinos. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III said General Ayed Tawa Al-Jalid is still able to hire more Filipinos despite reports of his physical and verbal abuse on his workers. He said Ayed was able to circumvent POLO and POEA rules on verification by placing the name of a pseudo-employer in the employment contract when in fact he was the real employer. Olalia said the POEA is coordinating with polos in Saudi Arabia and other stakeholders to come up with well-crafted guidelines to prevent abuses. The Philippine Army has condemned the New People's Army for attacking government troops serving under a community support program in Las Navas, northern Samar. The NPA attacks were held simultaneously in San Jose, Epao, and Sagod villages on Monday. Colonel Perfecto Peña Radondo, commander of the Philippine Army's 803rd Infantry Brigade, said soldiers were in the area to deliver basic services and resolve issues of those exploited by communist terrorist groups. The troops responded to the attack and returned fire, causing the terrorists to scamper to the forested areas. A soldier was wounded during the attack in San Jose village. This month, government troops reported several attacks by armed rebels in northern Samar, including the use of banned anti-personnel mines. The PNP earlier deployed Special Action Force personnel to northern Samar to help in the fight against the terrorist group. Limited face-to-face classes have started in several parts of the country in the hopes of eventually bringing children back to the school in the new normal. What do parents think about letting their children go to school? Let us find out in today's Boses ng Masa.
Pwede na po sir, okay na po yun. Para naman po makaluwag-luwag rin sa mga bata rin po. Para mapaglaro din sila sa mga gusto nila laruin po.
Oo, okay naman. Kaya lang, sa online kasi, gasto sa load eh. Problema din ng nanay eh. Madali maubos ng load. May bigay nga eh. Ubos din agad eh.
Talaga?
Maglo-load ka. Oo. Problema talaga sa load kasi lalo ngayon wala akong masyadong binta eh. Kaya 3 araw nanghingi ng anak ko ng load. Mas maganda face to face na para may matutunan din sila.
Hindi pa.
Bakit po?
May virus pa rin eh. Tsaka hindi naman pa lahat vaccinated. Kung totally vaccinated na, okay lang. Tsaka yung precautionary measures ng school, kung in place ba or hindi.
Pwede naman kasi yung mga magulang nahihirapan din eh. Parang sila na yung teacher eh. Tsaka bumababa yung quality ng education natin dahil yung iba naman kasi dyan, di naman nag-aaral. Naglalaro-laro lang. Oh.
More stories from the newsroom. Safety above anything else, the Tourism Department supports the halt on the entry of foreign tourists amid the threat of the Omicron variant. And we listen to the stories of two employees who proved that honesty is still the best policy. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom. Mount Pinatubo showed weak signs of activity on Tuesday afternoon, but authorities still warned residents nearby to be careful. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology reported a weak explosion that generated a plume that was detected by Japan's Himawari 8 satellite. Seismologists also detected seismic and infrasound signals that are not typical of known volcanic processes. PVOX added that there has been very low seismic activity in the past days, discounting magmatic activity beneath the edifice. It asked the public to be prepared and refrain from going to the vicinity of Mount Pinatubo. It also advised local government units to ban entry into the Pinatubo crater until the source of the explosion is determined. The Department of Tourism supported the interagency task force's decision to suspend the entry of foreign tourists to the Philippines. The Philippines originally planned to allow the entry of fully vaccinated foreigners to the country from December 1st to the 15th. However, this was halted amid the growing threat of the heavily mutated Omicron coronavirus variant. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat nevertheless said the DOT shall continue to support national efforts that promote the protection of the country's well-being. Aside from halting inbound leisure travel, the IATF also temporarily suspended the testing and quarantine protocols for green list countries. The Omicron was first reported by South Africa on November 24, with the first known confirmed infection from a specimen collected on November 9. Residents of Barangay Tacob in Kiblawan, Davao del Sur will have until December to register for the Philippine Identification System or PhilSys. Registration is ongoing in Barangay Dapok until December 4. December 6 to 11 at Laitian, December 13 to 18 at Bulul Salo, December 20 to 24 at Kisulan, and December 27 to 31 at Abnate. The local government reminded registrants to observe health protocols against COVID-19, refrain from wearing heavy makeup, face and using noticeable accessories, and not wear contact lenses that will interfere with iris scans during the Step 2 biometrics registration. PhilSys Kiblawan will accept walk-in applicants for the Phil ID card or depending on the availability of slots. Aside from the mobile teams, PSA Davao del Sur is conducting registration at its Digos City satellite office. Despite his troubles with funding, training, and the Philippine Athletics Track and Field Association, Olympic pole vaulter EJ Obiena says he will not change allegiances and will instead continue to represent the Philippines. The world number 6 pole vaulter confirmed that there have been lucrative deals for him to consider naturalization. However, he maintained that he is proud to compete for the flag of the Philippines. He said not even his row with the Patafa would prompt him to consider bolting out of the Philippine team. Despite the vow, the reigning Southeast Asian Games champion remains puzzled why Patafa has vilified him. Jim Lafferty, Obieno's longtime mentor, first broke out the offers in an interview last week. And before we go, we welcome December with some wonderful news. 2 employees displayed extraordinary feats of honesty and kindness in separate occasions since the weekend. A janitor at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport turned over to authorities a bag containing $10,000. June Teleweek found a bag containing a large amount of cash at the NAIA Terminal 2 while he was collecting garbage last November 27. The Manila International Airport Authority coordinated with airline personnel to find the owner, whose son appeared to claim the bag last Tuesday. MIA General Manager Ed Monreal lauded Teleweek as one of those who stay honest in their work despite the hardship caused by the pandemic. Teleweek has been an airport building attendant since 2017. Meanwhile, in Tuguegarao City, a janitor at a mall on Tuesday returned almost 40,000 pesos in cash, which he found while cleaning the hallways. Rio Billones, a utility worker of SM Downtown, turned over the money to the Customer Relations Service Office. It was learned that John Carlo Cabuag, a bicycle store owner, accidentally dropped the money. His brother, Loreto Sammy Cabuag, soon came to claim the lost cash. The 2 brothers and the mall management lauded Billones for his act of kindness and honesty in returning the money. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. No halt to recovery. Malacanang remains confident that the country will hit its economic growth target for 2021, even as it scrambles to ramp up protection amid the threat of the Omicron variant. Kamsamnida, South Korea. The Philippines gets over 500,000 doses of Astrazeneca vaccines donated by Seoul, which is expected to boost the country's vaccination drive. Hitting the brakes on pandemic traffic, the number coding scheme in Metro Manila resumes today in a bid to curb congestion along roads during the holiday season. And honesty is the best policy. 2 employees are honored for not giving in to temptation and returning valuables to their rightful owners. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC13. And it is 24 days more to go before Christmas. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.